Hi, I'm Rusty Endicott. I'm the Safety and Loss Manager at Federated Rural Electric Insurance Exchange.
And I'm David English. I'm the Safety Coordinator at Barton County Electric in Lamar, Missouri.
We're here today to talk to you about Powertown and playing it safe around electricity. We're going to talk about go through some great scenarios today of things you can and can't do around electricity. We need to remember that electricity is around us each and every day, and we want to be able to make sure that we can show you some certain scenarios where you have to play it safe around electricity.
Before Rusty and David show us around, let's learn a few new words that will help us along the way. The first new word is conductor. A conductor is a material or substance that allows for the flow of electricity. Some good conductors are copper, silver, and water. The opposite of a conductor is an insulator. An insulator slows or stops the flow of electricity. Some examples of insulators are rubber, glass, or dry wood. The last word we need to learn is ground. Now, you may already know what the ground is. It's underneath you every day. But what does it mean for electricity to seek a path back to ground? The Earth is neutrally charged and can safely absorb electricity. So, electricity is always seeking that path back to ground.
Electricity in its natural state is invisible, and we need to always remember that to stay safe around electricity. In this example, the red plug is the energized plug, and the black plug is the grounded plug. Electricity is always seeking a path back to ground, and electricity will take all available paths back to ground. So in Powertown, when we turn it on, the green light on the front of the house comes on. See the green light? All right, can you see the wire? Can you see electricity? The energized plug is hot with the green light on, and when Dave separates the two lines, you'll see the problem, and they separate, and electricity is jumping from the red plug to the black plug and creating Jacob's ladder or the arc, and you see it separating going up the Jacob's ladder. When he touches the two back together, green light's still on, you cannot see electricity. Electricity is invisible in its natural state.
It's time for a safety check. Let's see what you learned. In its natural state, can you see electricity? Yes, only at night, no, or only during the day? Correct. In its natural state, electricity is completely invisible. Electricity is always seeking a path back to blank. Ground, the airport, air, or the wire. Correct. Electricity is always seeking a path back to ground.
We need to remember that today's ladders, a lot of them are still aluminum. And so aluminum is, as we talk about in Powertown, a conductor of electricity. You have to remember to help dad or mom play it safe around electricity, and remember that all of our homes have electricity going to them. Transformers right here have wires coming out of them, going to the house. These are secondary wires. And these are typically in voltages of 120 or 240. And you'll see dad in this situation has got his ladder set up here by the wires. Is that a good place to set it? No, right? Because if he gets too close, oh my goodness. If the ladder has become energized because it's an aluminum ladder, it's metal, so it conducts electricity. And the electricity is going in the ladder through dad, because dad is also a conductor, and the electricity is going out the ladder into the earth back to ground, right? Electricity always wants to go back to ground.
Time for a safety check. Let's see what you learned. An aluminum ladder is a good conductor. A conductor blanks the flow of electricity. A conductor allows for the flow of electricity. A conductor slows down the flow of electricity. A conductor stops the flow of electricity. Or a conductor reverses the flow of electricity. Correct. An aluminum ladder is a good conductor because a conductor allows for the flow of electricity. It is blank to set up a ladder near a power line. It is dangerous to set up a ladder near a power line. It is funny. It is safe. Or it is useful. Correct. It is very dangerous to set up a ladder anywhere near a power line.
I want you to remember in this scenario, this can be a school bus, this can be mom and dad's car, dad's pickup truck, anything with wheels and tires on it. We'll say a tire accidentally blows out on the bus and the bus goes off the road and hits a power pole. And in this scenario, it hit a power pole and it's kind of off the edge of the road here and the wire is falling on the bus. The safest thing we always want you to remember to do, no matter what, if it's a car, it's a bus, it's a pickup, no matter what, is stay on the bus. Susie is safe, but if Susie were to get off of that bus and to touch that bus and the ground at the same time, you see electricity entering her hand. If you watch little Susie's feet, it comes out her feet. You go in her hands, out her feet, back to the ground. The only time Susie and her friends have to get off, or you would have to get off the bus, is if there were a fire. All right, and what we would want you to do, in this case, the wire is touching at the back of the bus, right? And so I would want you to go to the emergency exit at the front of the bus. I'd want you to put your hands at your sides. I want you to put your feet together, all right? And I want you to jump as far as you possibly can jump away from the bus without touching the bus and the ground at the same time. You would jump, land, and then shuffle your feet as far as you can, at least the length of the school bus away from the bus.
It's time for a safety check. Let's see what you learned. If a vehicle comes in contact with a utility pole or power line, where is the safest place to be? Inside the vehicle? Behind the vehicle? In front of the vehicle? Or on the hood of the vehicle? Right! If a vehicle comes in contact with a utility pole or power line, the safest place to be is inside the vehicle. If a vehicle catches fire and you have to exit, you should blank touch the vehicle and the ground at the same time. Always, sometimes, never, or try to. Right. If a vehicle catches fire and you have to exit, you should never touch the vehicle and the ground at the same time.
Many of you in your yards today have these green boxes. You know, they may be gray, they may be green, but it's a Padmount transformer you have in your backyard. And they're supposed to have a dual locking system on them, but we want to remind you they're not to play on, Dave. They're not toys. We don't want you playing on them. These have the same high voltage electricity in them that these power lines have. It's just the lines come in underground.
Sometimes, Rusty, you know, maybe a farmer out brush hogging might bump one.
Yeah.
And that double lock system will break.
That's right.
The lid could not even be on the unit. The problem is, what if Susie comes up and what if she kicks her ball into the pad mount? What happens when she comes up to it?
And in this scenario, you would never ever want to go near that or to reach inside of it because it has the same hazards of high voltage electricity inside that you would have with an overhead power line. And you could easily become energized and be in that path. And so if you see a phone number on the outside of there, just like you go tell a parent, you know, tell your school teacher, somebody like that, tell an adult, and have them go and call the power company, and they will come and lock that back up and secure it to where it's not a danger anymore.
It's time for a safety check. Let's see what you learned. If you come across an open or unlocked pad mount transformer, what should you do? Stay away, do not reach inside, have an adult call the power company, or all of the above? Right! If you come across an open or unlocked pad mount transformer, you should stay away, don't reach inside, and have an adult call the power company. Is a closed Padmount transformer safe to play on? Only at night? Only with an adult? Only during the day? Or never? Right! Even a closed Padmount transformer is not safe to play on.
In today's day and age, the farm equipment is just getting bigger and bigger and bigger. And, I know in my community, these tractors and stuff like that are just getting so big that they have to really, really watch as they move the equipment around. She's backed this auger into a power line, and you can see by the green light down there that Power Town's on, Dave, but she's safe as long as she stays in that tractor. Right. Only time you have to get off that tractor is if it was on fire. So we would want you to stay safe, stay put, stay on the tractor until help arrives. Because if you were to get off the tractor and touch the tractor and the ground at the same time, you would become energized and that electricity would flow back to ground.
It's time for a safety check. Let's see what you learned. If your tractor comes in contact with a power line or utility pole, what should you do? Jump out, climb down, stay put and call 911, or drive away? Right! If your tractor comes in contact with a power line or utility pole, you should stay in the cab and call 911. If you hit a utility pole, you should only leave your cab if there is a fire, ice cream truck, cute dog, or chore to finish. Right! If you hit a utility pole, you should only leave your cab if there is a fire.
So in our next scenario here, what we've got is an electrical substation. And Dave, on the outside of this fence it says danger, high voltage, restricted area, authorized personnel only. Who's authorized to go in there? Are kids authorized to be in there?
No, never. Only linemen and people from the generating side of the electric world can go into a substation.
Inside the substation, the reason we put fences around that stuff is we have stuff in there with lower clearances, stuff's closer to the ground. And so if a kid were to kick a ball in here, for example, they definitely don't want to go in after it. If they were to get inside this substation and they could touch something in there that they could inadvertently become electrocuted or shocked very, very bad. Just stay away from them. Don't play anywhere near them. Don't touch the fences, anything like that. If you walked up to this and a wire had fallen on the fence and you didn't know it, Dave, it may have just picked it up like load, and that fence may be energized.
Right.
So just don't play around them. If you accidentally kick a ball or something in there, call the local utility. They'll come get it for you. You're not going to be in trouble. Dave's not going to come yell at you or anything like that.
We'll come get your ball.
That's right. They'll come get it out for you.
We don't even want you touching the fence.
That's right.
It's time for a safety check. Let's see what you learned. When approaching a substation, you should never go in, touch the fence, climb the equipment, or all of the above. Right. If you find yourself approaching a substation, you should never go in, you should never touch the fence, and you should absolutely never climb on any of the equipment. If your ball goes into a substation, you should climb the fence, have an adult call the power company, try to grab it, or call a friend. Right. If your ball goes into a substation, you should call the power company and wait for a line worker to arrive.
In this scenario, we want everybody to remember that power lines, if they're down and laying on a fence, it can travel the full length of that fence, no matter what the distance is. And electricity travels at the speed of light. So even if it's a real long run of fence, if a power line was down way away from you, if that fence is connected, it could travel down the fence. So if you see a line down on a fence, you wouldn't want to go anywhere near that fence and touch it, or you could be that path back to ground like this little doll here is. You can see the electricity go in her hand. She didn't even quite touch the fence, and it jumped out and got a hold of her and traveled down in her hand, through her body, and out her feet back to ground.
It's time for a safety check. Let's see what you learned. If you come across a downed power line on a fence, what should you do? Stay away, call 911 and the power company, tell an adult, or all of the above? Right. If you come across a downed power line on a fence, you should stay away, call 911, call your power company, and tell an adult. Electricity travels at the speed of light, sound, a race car, or a jet plane. Right. Electricity travels at the speed of light.
So in this scenario, we'll talk about trees and how it's important if you're climbing trees to make sure that the trees are not near power lines. Again, look up and live. Make sure when you're climbing trees, you're not climbing near power lines, because trees are big at the bottom, but they get small at the top, and they're near power lines. You could literally lean that limb right into the power line. And that tree is also a conductor of electricity, but you are a better one. So electricity would come down the tree, find you, and then continue on its way back to the path of ground.
It's time for a safety check. Let's see what you learned. What is a good reminder for being aware of your surroundings, especially when climbing trees? Stay down and sit, look up and live, keep up and calm, or run away and hide? Right! A good reminder for being aware of your surroundings is look up and live. You should blank climb trees near power lines. You should try to climb trees near power lines. You should only climb trees near power lines. You should sometimes climb trees near power lines, or you should never climb trees near power lines. Right. You should never climb a tree if it's near a power line.
Where are you supposed to fly kites at, Dave?
Out in an open field away from all power lines.
Exactly. Big open fields, way away from power lines. And as small as kite string is, it can still be a conductor of electricity. So once you take kite string out of the package, you have to remember that kite string becomes conductive. So if you're out flying your kite, you want to make sure you're away from the power lines, because electricity travels at the speed of light. So in the amount of time that kite string would burn up, it would still have time for that electricity, Dave, to get down that kite string in your hands and out your feet and cause you to be harmed, burned, possibly even electrocuted from simply flying your kite around electricity.
It's time for a safety check. Let's see what you learned. Is it safe to fly kites near power lines? Yes, only at night, no, or only during the day? Right. It is never safe to fly kites near power lines. Kite string is a conductor, snack, insulator, or toy. Right, kite string is a conductor.